Hey, are you here? I'm running a little bit late because I'm in the middle of trying to coordinate a play date, right? I don't know about you, but I am way overdue for some play with friends. Isn't that what summer is supposed to be about? Isn't that, well, what life should be about? Yeah, there's work to be done. But what's the point of doing the work if we don't prioritize that in the non-working time, we get to play? Now, here's the deal, right? It's been over a year since I've really freely gathered with the people who matter most to me, my friends, right? Now, I'm very fortunate in that my work, right, here at Life's Work Yoga Studio often puts me in contact not only with like-minded individuals virtually or in real time, but I also get to see my friends who happen to also be my students. And I'm grateful for that. But when I'm up there on the teacher's mat and I'm holding space for the practice, there's a level of play for sure, but it's not the same thing as coming together as peers, as equals in the sense of the joy of just being together in the moment. And that's what play is about. And for June, I'm really trying to cultivate space in my own head, my own heart, my own space for more play. And as a grown-ass adult, I have to do the coordination. Now, that's not entirely true. Sometimes a friend will reach out and invite me to a play date, and boy, do I love an invitation. Now, I don't always know how to say yes to the invitation because it gets into my, I don't know, am I ready for that? Is that going to be fun? Do I know this person? All those kinds of anxiety things that come in when I'm pushed to the edges of my familiarity. Now, here's the kicker, is that as I'm coordinating this play date with friends, I also want it to be an opportunity for me and my husband, my partner, to play together. Well, he has a very different, let's call him a social skills, but more importantly, a social threshold for what he enjoys doing in a group setting. Now, literally, he loves me and he will do whatever I ask of him out of a sense of obligation. Essentially, out of a commitment to doing loving acts because he wants to show me that he loves me, right? So Peter will agree to do, say, a double date or a social outing that is with people we do know, more so than people we don't know, because he wants to support me and he knows that that's part of my needs as a self-care, intentionally practicing human, that being in connection for play, being in connection for conversation, being in connection for an opportunity to share space, time, share stories, and live authentically is such a key part of me being me, that he is willing to do that with me. There's a recovery time for sure when, for both of us actually, after doing an outing that is energy high or coordination and details demanding of my resources. I don't love details. I like broad scopes. Like, here's a day and a time, can you show up, right? That's more my fashion, my style. But I do know that we all have different thresholds, not only of how much energy, how much time, how many people, what kind of time frame. I have a friend who is a great night owl. I am not. 9 o'clock comes along and I am pretty much spent. But what happens between 9 and 10 is pretty fluid for me, right? In the sense that my husband is also much more leaning towards the night hour. So when in the past we've coordinated kind of these play dates with our adults, often I'm the host for the early part of the evening and he hosts the latter part of the evening, sometimes with me even heading off to bed. Because play that wears us out, that overburdens us to the point where the next day's recovery might demand more than we have available, is not really play. That becomes a burden, right? Think of the hangover, right? If you've ever had a hangover, and I can honestly say, knock on wood, that I've never had a hangover. I don't drink a lot per se, but in the sense that I've never had a hangover. I've never drank that much or not eaten that much or whatever the combination, the metabolism is high, whatever the combination is, I've never actually experienced a hangover from alcohol. But I have experienced what I call the hangover of too much of something without honoring my boundaries of self-care. So, what does that mean for you? Well, first of all, do you know what your boundaries are? Do you know what your limits are? Not just in terms of alcohol, but in terms of socialization, in terms of food, in terms of the number, perhaps, of people that you can be in intimacy with without feeling drained, without feeling taxed, without feeling overwhelmed. And for me, that's somewhere around 10 to 12. That's including me and my partner, me and my husband, right? In the sense that somewhere in that 2 fistful, I can manage. But that is considered a full house for me. Now, the application of this awareness is also why my studio specializes in intimate settings. I can fit 10 people into a public class in my physical space, but that's really the max when it comes to movement. Now, of course, for less movement practices or for meditation and even for social circles, we can fit more people by law, right? But that's not where I find the greatest reward for my effort. I want to be able to sit and see you and see everyone's faces and have an opportunity to mix and mingle, to talk to each person who's in attendance with that level of authenticity, that level of transparency, and the invitation to carve out space for vulnerability. Now, one of my favorite ways of connecting with my friends is eating. Why? Because, gosh, it's so fundamental to my worldview, in the sense that food is a source of prana, yeah? We take it in through our mouth, we nourish our bodies, but food is also a way in which we can come together, that we can share. I love the idea of potlucks. Truth be told, I don't always love the outcome of potlucks, but when the potluck is contained to those who know each other, we tend to have a higher consistency of the food that's brought to a potluck actually being complementary to those who are eating, right? So that's kind of the premise that I'm talking about here, in the sense that food brings us together. Food lets us share our own values in a way of invitation, right? So if I bring something to a potluck and it doesn't suit your needs or your flavor palette for today, the gift is still being offered. But because there's a group, I don't even necessarily have to know who took it and who didn't take it, right? My offering is coming from what I have in abundance to share, be that the food, be that my time and energy and resources to prepare the food, be it whatever it is that are the boundaries and limitations. So food is a great way that I love to share time, energy, space, resources. But in addition, I love to find an activity of play. That could be a board game. That could be a non-board game, right? Do you remember charades and something along that was more conversational? Anything that brings us into dialogue, into humor, into kind of testing the comfort zones of what we're good at, that's all part of the play. Why? Because it's not a competition. It's about feeling that aliveness just in the moment. So here's my challenge, right? I like challenges, not only just for story time, but also through the coaching that I do with my one-on-one clients, in the sense that a challenge is just about creating a boundary in which we can say yes to, right? Now, whether or not you choose to say yes to this challenge is entirely up to you. But the invitation is to test your boundaries. It's been a year, and maybe like me, you've been quarantining and keeping your physical distance even in your social interactions. Well, as things loosen and open, and I want to encourage you, if you haven't, get your vaccination. Do it for the good of our community, not just for what it might do to help protect you, but for the good of our greater community. Get your vaccination. And then look for opportunities to reinsert yourself into the social network that is community. Maybe you extend the invitation. Maybe you are receiving an invitation. Maybe you check out the social calendar for your community, right? And join a public event. Bring a friend or not. Go and make a friend. What is the limits, the boundaries of your skill and your comfort level? And can you test the edge just a little bit? Now, the truth is, I'm a little out of practice because we haven't had to do this. We haven't been able to do this socializing for a while. So I'm also keeping in mind that my social muscles might be a little atrophied, not just in terms of what I can tolerate, but maybe even in terms of what I remember to do in preparation, right? So for example, I don't do well at the end of a long day. So my social engagements for play are usually done on a day that I'm not working, so that I can prepare the first part of the day or around that social event so that I'm ready. As an introvert, wink, wink, I know some of you don't think that I'm an introvert, but actually I am. I have a lot of extrovert skills given my profession as a teacher trainer for 30 some odd, 40 years. Oh my gosh, a long time that I've been doing training and education and teaching. And as a result of that, I've developed the skills to be extroverted, to be engaging in that sense of energy. But my true nature is intimacy. One-on-one is my favorite, and even some alone and one-on-one, alone and downtime for myself. So, have you touched base with your limitations, with your boundaries, so that you can practice self-care and practice play as a key component? It's one of 10 practices that, when applied, help us to cultivate a life of happiness and joy. So if you haven't been having a lot of play, if you haven't had a lot of time for connection and socializing, here's your challenge. Here's your invitation to find that opportunity and show up. I look forward to hearing from you, seeing you, and hearing about your adventures in play. Take care of you, take care of each other, and I hope to see you again soon for practice, for a circle, or for a live virtual chat. Be well, take care, namaste.